the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Your mission.
Go where no man has gone.
To reclaim the American dream.
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first live episode of the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon, and I am excited to be with you today. I would say I'm a little nervous, but that would be an understatement. But, you know, I'm just glad to be able to talk to you about the things that I know about the things that are going on in the world around us. It's, you know, you ever get so fed up with the stuff that you see that you realize, you know what, I've got to say something about it. I mean, that's exactly what's going on. Is I have to say something about it. And the problem is that if you just don't start somewhere, you'll always be sitting in the back, biting your tongue, wanting to say something, but not having anything to say. So this is the first live episode. So you're going to see a lot of mistakes. Go ahead and accept that. I've already accepted that. I'm not worried about that. I'm here to share with you what I consider to be my niche. I'm here to share with you my expertise, some things that I excel in terms of the national debate, the politics of our nation. I have some expertise in foreign relations and different things like that. But where I really excel at, it would really be in our American debate, particularly when it comes down to dealing with the religious right. Conservative religious rights. And you know what? But it looks like I've already got a caller. And so before we even get too far down the line, I'm going to pick up the line. I'm going to ask our screener if he could send them back through to my channel one more time, and we'll pick up the line. But and when that phone call comes back through, we'll pick it up. But in the meantime, this weekend, or actually this morning, Mike Huckabee. And I told you, I have a niche. My niche is dealing with the religious right. And if you're tuning into me, you already know that, but you're going to know it more. Mike Huckabee steps out and decides to say, because of President Obama's prayer breakfast speech, where he reminded us that Christians have a jaded past as well, and that we shouldn't get on our high horses. And, you know, the Republican Party, Christian conservatives, religious right, the religies, they went full blast into panic mode. I mean, they lost their minds. As with anything, I guess that would be surprising if they didn't do it all the time, you know. But Mike Huckabee, you know, the Baptist preacher, and, you know, former governor and wannabe president, he decided to say this morning, he said it's that with regard to President Obama, that everything he does is against what Christians stand for. And he's against the Jews in Israel. OK, so because President Obama said that Christians have a jaded past, I guess in Mike Huckabee's brain, the next logical conclusion is that President Obama stands against Christianity. Does that add up or make sense to anybody in the real world except for religious right, those in the religious right? I mean, think about it. President Obama said what was simply the truth. There was a time in our past. There was a time when the religious right, when Christians were lynching African Americans. It wasn't that long ago. It was just a few years ago. I mean, it was in my mother's lifetime. It wasn't that long ago that Jim Crow and segregation just ended. And the impetus behind it, and since there were Christians that opposed it. But have you seen the pictures of the Klan lined up in churches? I mean, it's not a far stretch. I mean, the Klan, they were a Christian organization, or at least they identify themselves as a Christian organization. And so for President Obama to say this isn't something so ridiculous. It's simply recounting the truth. Now, President Obama was speaking primarily about the Crusades and the type of massacres and murders that took place during that time. But we don't have to go back 1,000 years to find. Now, I can say this because I'm a Christian. And I know I'm probably lost a couple of listeners right there who don't, who whatever. I'm a Christian, but you have to be candid and you have to be sober about your past. Your past, who you are today, is not in isolation from where you've come from. So Christianity today, yes, we're cleaned up. No, we don't endorse lynchings. No, we don't. We're not engaging in the Crusades. No, there's a lot of things that we don't do anymore, but that doesn't negate the fact that we did them in the past. And so when I hear the religious right losing their mind over these types of things, it's almost like they have a selective amnesia. It's like they really want us to believe that they really believe the Immaculate Conception is true with regards to who they are, right? As though they just popped out perfect. As though they popped out perfect with not a spot or a blemish. So I just think it's kind of ridiculous. I think the level that they lost their mind about this, they've lost their mind. I think I have a caller online one caller, Fred from Jacksonville. Fred, are you there? Okay, I lost Fred. Fred, when you get a chance, feel free to call back in. Our lines are open, 857-600-0518. So back to Mike Huckabee, and it's my niche. My niche is dealing with the religious right and exposing their hypocrisies and the level of insanity, if you would, that comes from the religious right. The level of insanity that comes, it's a level of absurdity because they have based their entire faith in perspective of their politics. They based it off of two things. They based it off of two things and two things only. This is the litmus test to be a religious, to be a Christian in their eyes, right? The two things, there's only two benchmarks to be considered a Christian according to the religious right. And that's opposing abortions and opposing gay marriage. Now, anyone who does not oppose gay marriage, anyone who does not oppose abortion to the religious right, you're an apostate. You're not of God. You're going to hell. Anyone who, and that's just the level of absurdity for two reasons. One, because we live in a world where the church is. I don't care what you bring from the founding fathers. I have just as many quotes of the founding fathers establishing the fact that this is not a Christian nation, right? So you could bring me one quote, I can match you with another quote. So don't tell me about the founding fathers. Yes, they were Christian. They were Christian in their individual lives, but they were not Christian in their attempts to create a Christian nation. Let me say that better. They were not trying to build a Christian nation. So y'all, you can miss me with that. It doesn't matter what you say. America is not designed to be a Christian nation in terms of a theocracy, in terms of ruling people based on religious principles. And that's where a lot of Republicans, conservatives, because they've conflated the two, that's where a lot of them have lost their minds, because if we are not implementing conservative, the religious rights definition of Christianity on America, then now they are the persecuted of America. And that's the level of absurdity. So the problem I have with them, and you should have with them also, is that, one, they don't have the right to enforce their beliefs on people who don't want to believe it. It's fine that you have your beliefs. I have my beliefs. I probably see eye to eye with you on a lot of things. I have the way that I live my life. I have the way that I raise my family. That's my personal choice. But I am not going to try to impose those beliefs on someone or people who simply don't believe what I believe. And they don't have to be the benchmark. I'm not the benchmark for their citizenship. I'm not the benchmark for what rights they get. There's only one benchmark for what rights an American citizen gets, and that's the Constitution. Not the Constitution and the Bible. Not the Constitution and the Quran. Not the Constitution and the Torah. Just the Constitution. And so that's what, anyway, I don't want to go too much further, but it's ridiculous. And so they have this perception of Christianity that is very one-dimensional, very focused only on principles that are convenient to the Republican Party. If you talk about anything else other than, let's say, abortion, or anything other than gay rights and opposing them, then it's no longer important to them. Matter of fact, they've twisted it so much now. That they don't think, they don't even think that Jesus would help the sick. They don't even think that Christians should be actively trying to use the government or people in general should be trying to use the government to help the poor, to help the sick, to help the least among us. The things that Jesus actually did while he was here. And I stumbled on this clip by John Hagee the other day, and let me see if I can get this to play for you real quick.
Listen to this. America has a dependent state the size of Spain living on our welfare. We have a division in our country that cannot long endure. Those who pay double through taxes and those who get a free ride. This is not justice, and this is not the American way, and this is not how we became great. We became great by every American getting off his duff, getting himself a job, and making his life a thing of beauty based on his own efforts. To the healthy who can't work but won't work, get your nasty self off the couch and go get a job. America has rewarded laziness, and we've called it welfare. The Bible says, the man that does not work should not eat. I know the liberals hate that verse, but read it and weep. It's God's position. It's God's position.
All right. It's God's position. Look how he seamlessly, you got to love John Hagee. Look how he seamlessly interweaves. He just juxtaposes liberals in opposition to God's position, right? Right. As if Jesus, didn't have anything to do with helping the least among us, didn't have anything to do with healing the sick, didn't have anything to do with social justice. The entire passage of the God of justice is completely irrelevant to them. But he just seamlessly, casually makes it seem as though, the liberals hate work, and liberals hate this scripture because they hate God, because if you have to work, if you don't work, you don't eat. Look at how seamlessly and effortlessly he says that. And even worse, listen to how everybody in the audience is like, oh yeah, Pastor. Oh yeah. Oh, amen, Pastor. And they have fooled. They have been fooled. They have been fooling and have been fooled. They have fooled themselves for a long time. They sincerely believe in their hearts that the Christian thing to do is to oppose abortion, but do nothing to help the baby after it is born. They sincerely believe that the Christian thing to do is to oppose gay marriage, but say nothing of all of the things that are destroying marriages right inside of the Christian church. You know, look at those two things, opposing gay marriage and opposing abortion. It's always about what somebody else is doing. And I think that's a defining difference between Christians, yes, but people in general. You have people who look at everyone else. They look at everyone else and say, you need to fix something about you. There's something wrong with you. And then there's those of us who say, there may be something wrong with you, but you know what? I know there's something wrong with me that I need to take care of first. And so this, anyway, that's my thing. That's my beef. I'm not going to talk about religion and politics all the time. I'll probably talk about politics all the time. But, you know, that's just the lay of the land. So that's our first segment, the Benjamin Dixon Show. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back right after this.
Hey, if you're like me, you're probably hearing the news that the economy is getting better, right? But there's one problem. You still don't have a job. Get back into the game with Chance.com, the state-of-the-art online employment connection for the new generation. Get access to millions of jobs on Chance that are actually hiring now. Stop searching for outdated job postings. Log on to Chance.com. Create a profile, and then be found. Make the connection you need to get hired today. If you're serious about your career, you've got to check this out. Chance.com. Get that job. Make that chance with Chance.com. JANZZ.com.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. It's time we switch to longer-lasting Energy Star light bulbs. They're more efficient than the old bulbs, like a text message is more efficient than a carrier pigeon. And they cut down on our energy costs. Because in our own groundbreaking age, we deserve a light bulb that saves us some cash. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
You feel petrified. You're struggling with your mortgage payments, not knowing what to do. You do nothing. But if you do something, you're far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making Home Affordable is a free government program. Call 888-995-HOPE to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about your options. Call 888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
It's 6:42 p.m. Time for Steve Plow and his son Dylan to do the dishes. They talk about everything from the yuckiness of girls to the awesomeness of his soccer team. Sometimes they don't talk at all. Then, hey! The dreaded splash fight. It's Dad O'Clock, and it's the best time of the day. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Buckle up for the ride. Give us a call, 857-600-0518.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So in the news, last week we saw ISIS, the Islamic State. We saw them go, I guess you could say they one-upped themselves in terms of brutality. They went one step further besides beheadings, and they burned a man alive. A Jordanian pilot, actually, his name was Moaz al-Kasaba, and Kasasba, pardon me, and they burned him alive. And I think they thought that they would strike fear in the hearts of everyone. But what they did was turn the tide. Because now, where they were trying, ISIS was trying to find legitimacy. ISIS was trying to become a caliphate. They were trying to become a legitimate Islamic state. Now they have begun to lose legitimacy in the eyes of other Muslims, particularly Jordan, King Abdullah II. They have gone all out in response, in retaliation, finding their own type of retribution against ISIS. And over the weekend, since the killing, since the murder, over the weekend, there's been over 56 airstrikes led by the Jordanian Air Force to attack ISIS and their respective targets. Now, I emphasize a couple of things here, because you have to understand the purpose of ISIS. What they are trying to do, they are literally trying to, by force, grab hold of as many territories as possible so that they can provide a sense of stability in those areas. And I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but they are trying to do through force. They're trying to bring their vision. Yes, they're trying to bring their perverted sense of Islam. Yes, but they're also trying to establish themselves on the world stage. And what you're seeing happening in the Middle East is the attempted birth of a new nation, of a new state, rather. And so ISIS is trying to they're trying to destroy any opposition, and they're trying to bring their own sense of stability. The reason I say that is because they've released a new video of ISIS teachers. They've built 12 schools. They've built 24 schools, 12 for boys, 12 for girls. And they're trying to establish the sense of stability in the region that they control, even though they use the most brutal of measures to get that stability. I'm mentioning these things for a reason. There is a reason twofold reason that ISIS uses these orange jumper suits. They use the orange jumper suits, because one, they're trying to send a message to America about Guantanamo Bay, because all of the images that you've ever seen from prisoners in Guantanamo Bay, they've been in these orange jumper suits. That's one. But two, it's now etched in the minds of most people across the world that prisoners are held in orange. That's almost becoming in our mind what we look for when we see prisoners. And so they are trying to establish themselves to be legitimate, and they're trying to establish themselves as the authority, as though they have the legitimate monopoly on force, as though what they do is authorized. They're trying to become a sovereign state. Now, what helps them become a sovereign state is when people in the media and around the world begin to address them as such. When people begin to address them as the Islamic State, as people begin to try to identify them as something that they are not. Now, we have to be careful, because the longer that ISIS remains, the longer they stay out there, the longer they have the ability to oppress the people and bring a perverted sense of stability, right? So they can become legitimate in the eyes of the people around them if we allow them to stay there. So we need to find them where they are. We need to do what we need to do. Yes. But you have to understand that what happened over the weekend, last week, when they killed the Jordanian pilot, they turned the tide in the favor of Western civilization, because now even the people, there was an Islamic caliph, who spoke out against it. He said, what you've done now is so atrocious, and it goes beyond the pale. And so now they're losing this legitimacy. What we can do as Americans and as just human beings would be to stop watching their propaganda, to stop playing it, to stop regurgitating it, to stop giving them what they need. They need this propaganda. They need the world to see them. They need the world to see how brutal they can be so that they can strike fear. But then at the same time, they want the world to see that they're bringing stability. This is all so that they can set themselves up as a legitimate government. And so we need to stop playing their footage. But of course, Fox News decides to take advantage of the fact that no one else was playing the footage. And they decide to link the footage on their website for the world to see. Thanks, Fox News. You've just made our job that much more difficult. Now you've become the voice. Forget about how difficult you made it. You have become the voice in Western civilization for ISIS. You have become the loudspeaker for a terrorist organization. ISIS also tried to claim, this was the craziest thing to me. ISIS tried to say that during the Jordanian airstrikes, that the American citizen that they had hostage, Kayla Mueller, that she was killed during those strikes. I don't know about you. The first time I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's a little too, yeah, right. I don't believe them. One, because they've never given us any reason to believe them in the first place. Two, because it was just established that the Jordanian pilot that they killed was already dead. When they aired the footage last week, he had already been dead almost a month. And so they've always used this sleight of hand to manipulate and to lie and to deceive and cause misdirection, right? So why would we believe it? More importantly, why would we repeat it as though it's a fact? Because as soon as you say something on the air as though it is so, it's going to echo throughout your echo chamber, through the blogosphere, through the Twitter sphere, through everywhere. People are going to repeat it. Oh, the Jordanian attacks killed Kayla Mueller. One, we don't even know if she's dead. They provided no evidence. Two, if she is dead, is it not more likely that ISIS did it and now are conveniently trying to pin it on the Jordanians? So why not? Why not in your reporting? Why not offer the fact that this should be taken with a grain of salt? Why not? Because now what you've done is you've put the word of a terrorist organization up against the word of a sovereign nation. And you've increased their legitimacy, at least in the eyes of the people they are oppressing. You don't understand. It doesn't matter so much that we don't see them as legitimate. What matters is how the people they are oppressing see them. And so now you've raised their voice to the level of a direct conflict with a sovereign nation, with Jordan. Another thing that you do, that conservatives, particularly conservatives, they try to label, they want to force the president, they want to force the Obama administration to call it like it is, right? That's what they say. Radical Islam. The president won't call it radical Islam. Well, there's plenty of reasons why he should not call it radical Islam. But one of the most important reasons is that you're elevating terrorism to be on par. I don't know. You know what? I should just stop right there, because in the minds of conservative Christians and the Republican Party, Islam is equal to terrorism. But for the rest of us who actually have our thinking capacities still functioning, for the rest of us, we understand that there is a difference between Islam and those who pervert Islam for their purposes. Now, I almost feel like coming full circle and pointing you back to why they lost their mind to the prayer breakfast. At the prayer breakfast issue, they lost their mind because they don't want you to ever think about their religion. Okay, our religion. You know, I'm a Christian, but they're something else. They have a perverted view of Christianity. They don't ever want you to think that Christianity can be anything but perfect. But they want you to see Islam completely as violent and totally perverted. That's all the while whitewashing the fact that, yes, ISIS burned somebody alive. But how many images? I mean, just do a Google search of lynchings and burnings. Not only did they hang people, but they burned them while they were still alive. And when I say they, I mean they're terrorist organizations. You know, the radicalized branches of Christianity blowing up abortion clinics, and they're doing it in the name of God. So they want President Obama to call all terrorism radical Islam, but it's not radical Islam. It's people who have perverted their faith. And once you put it in context like that, you realize, well, hell, there's a lot of people who pervert their faith. There's radical people in every religion. So they attack him on the fact that he doesn't talk about, he doesn't call it radical Islam. And then they flip it and say, well, he's not doing enough. You know, he's not doing, you know, if I were president or if we were in charge, you know, we would have a more aggressive, you know, we would do it this way or we would do it that way. Really, what would you do? I want somebody tell me what we have initiated and executed over 2,000 airstrikes against ISIS. Now, if that's not aggressive, I want somebody to tell me what aggressive is. And so it's become a talking point. I want you to listen to this segment, this clip of Scott Walker talking with, I believe, Martha Raddatz. And just listen in.
Well, I think I go back to the red line. I think
let's not go back. Let's go forward. What's your big, bold idea?
I think aggressively we need to take the fight to ISIS and any other radical Islamic terrorist in and around the world. And I think it should be surgical.
You don't think 2,000 airstrikes is taking it to ISIS in Syria and Iraq?
I think we need to have an aggressive strategy anywhere around the world. I think it's a mistake.
But what does that mean? I don't know what aggressive strategy means. If we're bombing and we've done 2,000 airstrikes, what does an aggressive strategy mean in foreign policy?
I think anywhere and everywhere we have to go beyond just aggressive airstrikes. We have to look at other surgical methods. And ultimately, we have to be prepared to put boots on the ground if that's what it takes. Because I think, you know...
Boots on the ground in Syria? U.S. boots on the ground in Syria?
I don't think that's an immediate... But I think anywhere in the world...
You wouldn't rule that out?
I wouldn't rule anything.
Can we give a hand for Martha Raddatz? I mean, thank you. Somebody finally uses the follow-up question to unpack these loaded terms. You know, we let them say things like aggressive strategy. President Obama needs to be more aggressive. President Obama doesn't love America. President Obama, unpack those things. All of these loaded terms that are extreme and asinine. When will somebody finally did? And when she unpacked it, or when she tried to have him unpack it, you know, he couldn't say a word. He couldn't say anything beyond his talking points. And that's what's real about conservatism. I'm sorry. What's the truth about conservatism is that once you start to unpeel the layers of conservatism, you realize that there's nothing there. There's only the outer shell of stupidity. There's only the outer shell of talking points. And so finally, somebody took them to task and made them own up to their talking points. And so you have to be careful now. I love it. I love it. Thank you. There was real reporting, real follow-up questions, finally, for a change. So that's my whole spiel with this thing with ISIS. Yes, we need to attack them and we need to crush them. I think we need to crush them before they become legitimate in the eyes of the people they are oppressing. And that is the most important, because if the people voluntarily turn the leadership of their region, of their territory, over to this group that we consider to be terrorists, well, then even though we don't recognize them as such, by definition, they become a legitimate state. They're legitimate in the eyes of the people they are oppressing. And so we need to destroy them before that point. But we don't need to destroy them with talking points. We don't destroy them by calling like Beetlejuice or something. We can't destroy them unless we say the name 3 times. Beetlejuice, Islamic, radical Islam. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's not how we're going to defeat them. We defeat them by building alliances. Ding, President Obama has done that. We defeat them by limiting their growth. Ding, President Obama has done that. There may need to be boots on the ground, but it's not American troops that need to go there. Ding, President Obama already knows that. And so we need to mobilize our allies in the region and get their boots on the ground, supported by the United States Air Force, and let's handle it that way. But more importantly than all of that, we have to delegitimize who they are. And we do that by crushing their propaganda, stop sharing it. And we do that by stop giving them this hallowed place where we refer to them as bigger than what they really are, because they are not. All right. Segment 2. I think we're warming up here. We'll be back after this break.
You're tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Join the conversation, 857-600-0518.
Looking for the right business opportunity? Need the right product, the right marketing plan, and the absolute best training in the world? Well, look no further. The Elite Team. Every leader in time excels. They believe the key ingredients in becoming successful in life and in business are just a keystroke away. Go to www.eliteteamsite.com. That's www.eliteteamsite.com. The Elite Team has a system in place that will move you closer to achieving your goals and dreams. Visit www.eliteteamsite.com or TonyFlemingEnterprises.com today.
College is important, but it can also be expensive. College Planning Services is a group of educators, administrators, counselors, and other licensed professionals that work together to provide the necessary services, networks, and information to reach students that are serious about getting a college education. College Planning Services partners with financial institutions, corporate sponsors, and other major players in the global market to strategize in building a pool of information regarding financial aid, scholarships, and funding information to assist students in preparing to access the essential resources to build upon their path to an educational future. Learn more at collegeplanningtoday.com and let us help you start your college career.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Ultimate Business Solutions provides the support you need to increase your customer base and sell more products and services online. Specializing in graphic arts, web development, and internet marketing, Ultimate Business Solutions creates the face of your business. If you're looking for a custom logo, dynamic website, or popping marketing material, call Ultimate Business Solutions today at 404-704-2197 or visit www.ultimatebizsolutions.com. Ultimate Business Solutions. Let us create your future.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right, ladies ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. You are tuned in for the ride. This is segment 3 of the first show, and I'm just glad you came. I'm glad you're listening. I'm glad you downloaded this whenever you downloaded it. And I want to give a special shout out to the network that I'm affiliated with, Survival Radio Network. Can we give somewhere in here, there's got to be an applause somewhere. Yeah. Survival Radio Network. Okay. Go ahead and clap again. Yeah, standing ovation. So check them out, survivalradionetwork.us. A great organization of hosts that really are doing something different in every area that you can imagine. So I appreciate them bringing me on, and you're listening live right now. You can also go to survivalradionetwork.us and get the download at another date. So thank you for joining in. Thank you for being a part with us. We've had a couple of calls that have come in, and it's not their fault. It's my fault because I have too many screens. I have literally 1, 2, 3, 4 screens, and I messed up, and my microphone is facing the other direction of the screen. So everyone who called in today, I apologize. Charge it to me. It's my bad. But this is our first show, first broadcast. We're going to keep it to an hour for now. And as time goes on, we'll pick up, and there's so much to talk about. There's so many things that we need to deal with. There's so many things that we need to address. For instance, one of the big things that are still going on and will continue to go on because I'm going to help it continue is the whole Black Lives Matter movement. It's important, and it's important to you no matter what race you are. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're Asian. I don't care where you come from. The Black Lives Matter movement matters to everyone because if it happens to us, it can happen to you. If the police can abuse us or feel as though they have the liberty to abuse us, whether it be because of our skin color or whether it be because of our socioeconomic status, then eventually it's going to come to your neighborhood. And that's just the bottom line of it. And so if you have a problem with the Black Lives Matter movement, we can address that another time, and we will address that. But you need to realize that it's important to you. And that's one of the things about this is Black History Month. And, part of me really genuinely loathes this month because not just every month, but every facet of American life has been shaped and or directly built by African Americans. Literally. The ports, the bridges. I'm taking this from James Baldwin. Look at it. We literally built those things. That whole motto back in, I guess it was 2012, the 2012 election, we built this. No, we built the White House. We helped build New York. We definitely built New Orleans. We built all of these regions, the textile mills, the cotton fields. We built it. There's nothing in America that has not been touched by the hands of Black people. So I think Black History Month is irrelevant outside of the fact that we need to remind you guys. We don't need to be reminded. We need to remind you, And so for those purposes alone, okay, fine, we'll keep Black History Month, but we need to change the entire perception because it's not giving us something or giving us some type of handout. Black History Month isn't about that. You have to understand this is our home. America is our home. Now, I know there's an entire movement who's ready to, to move back to Africa. God bless them. But for those of us whose bloodline we can only trace back to America because of the savagery of slavery. And then for those of us whose grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-great-grandparents literally built this country. And then for those of us who have our parents' blood, has been shed here. Their bones are buried here. You have to realize something, baby. America is our home. And you have to understand this too. The Black Lives Matter movement, this is about us stretching our legs and being comfortable in our home. Nobody is going to allow themselves to be uncomfortable or feel threatened in their home. And so likewise, the African American people, listen, from sea to shiny sea, America is ours. Now, you can define ours however you want to. I happen to define it as all of ours. But a part of that all of ours is a history, a legacy, and a pride that is the African American people. And so, but I'll give you this token. In honor of Black History Month, there's the token. Now, everything I say after this is really significant. There's a man who, in my honest opinion, who is by far one of the greatest minds, greatest writers. And honestly, I think he was one of the greatest speakers of the civil rights movement. James Baldwin. I hope you're clapping at home because I'm clapping in my head. James Baldwin was brilliant. I had no idea how brilliant he was until I began to read his stuff again as an adult. His prose, his phrasing, his thinking, his timing, his mannerisms, his disposition, everything about him was quite frankly dope. But he said this. He said, "I am not a ward of America. I am not an object of missionary charity. I am one of the people who built the country." James Baldwin. And I bring him up in this type of capacity because one of the tragedies, and I'm going to make some black people mad here, but whatever. Listen, if you're listening to my show and you don't get mad at least once, then you must be like me, you know. Hell, I'm going to get mad at some stuff I say because I have a tendency to convict myself. Yeah. So I'm going to make some people mad here. One of the tragedies of the civil rights movement was that it was not kind to gays and lesbians. Now, James Baldwin was a bad man. So bad that in the 60s, he didn't care what you had to say about him. He was proud of who he was. He was a brilliant, black, gay man. And because of his sexuality, the civil rights movement did not capitalize on his genius as much as they should have. I love Martin. I do. I am just floored and enamored with Malcolm. I think I identify more with Malcolm than I do Martin, but I love Martin because he was brilliant. But James Baldwin, if you put writing side by side, well, let's not do that. James Baldwin was a brilliant man, and I think the civil rights movement could have benefited more from his brilliance if they had not been so fearful of the gay and lesbian segment that is in our community. The bottom line is they are here. They are us. They're not separate. They're around us. They're part of our families. They're our cousins. Some of us have brothers and sisters. Some of us are gay. You know, and I know it's shocking. That's they're going to hell. Keep that. Save that. The reality is there's so much brilliance that we lost during that movement. And I know he was there. He was there in a prominent fashion. But for instance, give you this example. He was scheduled to speak at the March on Washington, but they pulled him from the March on Washington because he was gay. Now, I'm going to play a segment, a snippet, and I want you to listen to how this man thought and how he talked. And you tell me how brilliant it would have been to hear him speak on Washington.
Well, I know this. Anyone who's ever tried to live knows this. So what you say about somebody else, anybody else, reveals you. What I think of you as being is dictated by my own necessities, my own psychology, my own fears and desires. I'm not describing you when I talk about you. I'm describing me. Now here in this country we've got something called a nigger. I didn't invent him. White people invented him. I've always known, I had to know by the time I was 17 years old, what you were describing was not me, and what you were afraid of was not me. It had to be something else. You had invented it, so it had to be something you were afraid of, and you invested me with it. I've always known that I'm not a nigger. But if I am not the nigger, and if it's true that your invention reveals you, then who is the nigger? I'm not the victim here. I learned this because I've had to learn it. But you still think, I gather, that the nigger is necessary. Well, he's unnecessary to me, so he must be necessary to you. So I give you your problem back. You're the nigger, baby, it isn't me.
Wow. Listen to, I want to give commentary on that so badly, but I would do a disservice not to just allow his words to ring in your head. James Baldwin was he debated in Cambridge, in the UK. He debated one of the most brilliant minds, the conservative. Yes, there's some brilliant minds in conservatism. Yes, okay, I'll concede that. But this was like 40 years ago. He debated one of the most brilliant minds that conservatism had to offer, William F. Buckley. And they debated on the question of whether or not the American dream was forwarded at the expense of the American Negro. And Buckley defended the opposition to the premise, and James Baldwin, he debated the premise itself, that yes, the American dream came at the expense of the American Negro. And when I tell you William F. Buckley was one of the brilliant, I think he is the standard that Republicans should aspire for. But instead of his brilliance, they've exchanged. I want you to see, they have exchanged a William F. Buckley for the likes of Rand Paul and Bobby Jindal and Sarah Palin and Herman Cain. I mean, no wonder they don't believe in evolution, because there has been nothing but devolving from the brilliance of William F. Buckley to what they have now. But as brilliant as William F. Buckley was, he could not hold a flame. Nothing to James Baldwin. And so at a time where we needed every voice to be as loud and boisterous as possible, like today, we still need all of these voices to be loud and boisterous. At a time, his voice was marginalized by us, by African Americans, because he was gay. Now, that's not the end of his story. He is still considered to be one of the most brilliant minds of all time. A brilliant playwright, second to none, genius. If you listen to his voice and listen to his words and his thinking, now I'm going to break my rule. I am going to give just 2 seconds of commentary. I identify with James Baldwin because of this. He says that what we say about someone else reveals more about us than it does about them. So naturally, he has this ability to look inside of himself first. And he suggests through that that statement that we all be careful that while we're speaking out against someone else, that we look inside of ourselves first. Because our words are going to betray us. What we say, what the conservative movement says about Barack Obama, it reveals more about them than it does about Obama. You know, what someone says about me, it reveals more about them than it does about me. And Baldwin said it so eloquently. He said, I'm not going to carry this problem for you anymore. No, this is not my problem. I didn't invent the word nigger. I didn't invent that. I didn't invent racism. I didn't invent bigotry. I didn't invent it. You invented it. Speaking to white America at the time, they invented these contraptions, these devices. This was their invention. And so he said the invention reveals more about the inventor. And so he said, it's just brilliantly, he said, I'm not carrying this problem for you anymore. I release myself of this problem. I'm not the nigga. You are. James Baldwin, great man, brilliant man, and I honor him today. And we should honor him and those like him every single day. And we don't need to be so blindsided, so narrow-minded about sexuality that we marginalize voices. I mean, it wasn't just gay men that were marginalized, but it was gay women. Women in general have been marginalized by the African-American community, particularly during the civil rights movement. And now, 40, 50 years later, they're still being marginalized by America at large. We'll deal with those at another time. Listen, thank you. I want to thank you. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for hanging out with me for this hour. I don't know. I think I did all right. Yeah? What do you think? I want you to tune back in. Next Monday, we're live at 1 p.m., but we're also doing a rebroadcasting. I want you to check out the rebroadcast Tuesdays on the Survival Radio Network, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So listen, thank you for joining us. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. I'm going to play my show opener again. I'm going to play it on the way out because I want you to listen to it and I want you to hear me in it. Not me literally, but I want you to hear the essence of my heart, of what I stand for, what I fight for, and what we'll be doing on this show. What we'll be doing on this show every single week, and eventually we'll start doing it every single day. But for right now, I want you to tune in to the Benjamin Dixon Show. We love you, and we'll catch you next time.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Your mission.
Go where no man has gone.
To reclaim the American dream.
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Hey, if you're like me, you're probably hearing the news that the economy is getting better, right? But there's one problem. You still don't have a job. Get back into the game with Chance.com, the state-of-the-art online employment connection for the new generation. Get access to millions of jobs on Chance that are actually hiring now. Stop searching for outdated job postings. Log on to Chance.com. Create a profile, and then be found. Make the connection you need to get hired today. If you're serious about your career, you've got to check this out. Chance.com. Get that job. Make that chance with Chance.com. JANZZ.com.
The traditional light bulb. A